It is 6 o'clock in the council chambers, city of Marshfield, Tuesday, November 25th. Call to order, roll call. Let us please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item C, public comment. Number C, public hearing. Jeepers creepers. What a great way to start. On November 7th, 2025, the recommended 2026 budget, including all changes made at the budget meeting held on October 6th, October 14th, October 20th, and October 27th, were published in the official city newspaper, Marshfield News Herald. At this time, members of the public are invited to comment on the proposed 2026 budget. Are there any public comments from anybody in the audience? Are there any public comments in public hearing? Any public comments in public hearing? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Item D, identify possible conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest from the alder people? Seeing none. Item E, public comment period correspondence. At this time, I'll recognize persons in attendance wishing to address the council. Upon recognition by me, persons may address the council, first stating their name and address. Comments will be limited to no more than 5 minutes, and persons are asked to be respectful when addressing the council. No action will be taken regarding items not on the agenda. However, the council will take comments from the public under advisement. Please note that council members will not respond to your comments or questions. First, Dan Mauer.
Hi, Dan Mauer, 410 Meadow Lane, Marshfield, Wisconsin. Member of the airport committee for longer than forever. Just wanted to bring up a little story of what happened to John and I, and John will alliterate it a little bit. We're talking about putting the money to tear down the old terminal building in the airport budget for this year and for next year. Here's the story on that building. Basically, John will fill you in a little bit more, but we just about had all the funding taken care of to take the building down. And Gordy Earl and Chris Myers walked into our airport meeting and said, you guys are no longer in charge of that building. The city's taking the building. We will be responsible for it. John and I asked both, okay, we're going to discontinue trying to take it down. And once you make it into a pet shelter, it's done. You're not gonna rent it out. Who is responsible to take the building down when we're done? And we were firmly told it was none of our business. And so, okay. And then I went to the dedication to the pet shelter, and one of the gentlemen said, what are you doing here? And I said, I guess I was just coming to the dedication. Well, you have nothing to do with this building anymore. So when it came up that we were supposed to pay for the demolition that we almost had taken care of, 25 years ago? And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, they want to take the money out of our budget? We've been thrown out of it. We don't even have keys to that building. So as far as I'm concerned, we're going to be turning some money back in because we had a light snowfall. If you want to use that money to take the building down. But as far as I'm concerned, we were told point blank that it's the city's responsibility, not the airport committee and not the airport budget. Thank you. That's what you get when you get old guys on the committees.
Thank you, Dan. Next up, Denise Sonneman.
Good evening, Denise. I'm with Mackie. Just want to give a few updates that we've been working on. So Visit Marshfield, Main Street, us and the city have been working together, meeting quarterly on marketing efforts and how we can better market the city jointly, having one unified voice while keeping our own identity. We met in October. We'll be meeting again come January after the holidays. Also, Visit Marshfield, Main Street and us also collaborated for Small Business Saturday, which is this Saturday, the 29th. We are all pushing a little contest that anybody that spends $25 at any small locally owned business in Marshfield on the 29th can bring the receipt into Main Street or to Mackey, get your name put in a drawing for some prizes. And lastly, I wanted to hand out, there is a site readiness workshop being put on by Synergy on December 8th. And it is for elected officials. It is free. It's a half day. I believe it's all afternoon. The agenda's on the back of it. I really encourage you all to look into it. Really will touch a lot on economic development and how to be site ready for anything in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Next, John Berg.
John Berg, Marshfield, Wisconsin, Chairman of the Airport Committee.
And what's
First-
your address, John?
1401 South Adams Avenue.
Thank you.
First thing I'd like to say, just about everything that Dan said, I agree with him 100%, but I'd like to add a little bit more to the story. For the last 50 years, all the infrastructure on the airport, whether it be the airport's terminal we're in, the ramp, the fuel farm, the gas, runways, everything, all of that money come from either federal grants or money through the congressional money or grants through the state of aeronautics, working with the Bureau of Aeronautics. And the city gained a great amount of money out of that through the grants. When you get, say, for an example, $1 million and you only got to pay 5 to 10% of that for a project, and you get all these projects done with money be contributed to that, that's a big help in moving forward. There's new people there, so we're hoping that, things in the next year or so are going to work out good that way. Now I want to reflect a little bit more on the building. In that 50 years, there never was any grant money put into the terminal that we're talking about removing. How that terminal came about is Roy Schwery was the head person who instituted really the mid-state airlines and the commuter service to the airports and got many awards for that and really did a good job. And he got subsidized by the state for the airline part, but he never got subsidized for that terminal down there, which he used for tickets and that. Marilyn Hardiger came along and helped him get that building. And she raised funds and money where she got that for him, and the rest of his operation got subsidized by the Bureau of Aeronautics and the government and the state, and that's where all your commuters really come from today because he instituted and started it, and you really got to give him credit for that. But we're at a point, well, then what happened after that? Century Insurance come over and they bought Mid-State Airlines out, okay? So in the purchase of buying everything out, there was a building that came back to the city that the manager bought. And then we ended up with that terminal down there because they turned it back to the city. And a lot of that lease, when they got it, Maryland started it, it was 99 years, and when it was paid for, it'd be reverted back to the city. Well, Century says, we don't want it, we're gonna give it back to the city. Okay, so they gave it back to us, and we're over here with all our airport stuff. Now we inherited that building. So what are we gonna do with it? So I and Dan and the people on the airport committee at the time said, well, what can we do? We'll rent the building out and we'll get as much rent as we can for the building to break even with the building, to lower the cost where the taxpayers don't have no money in it and see where it goes. And we did that for a long period of time. And we didn't have anybody in it at the time. They came and said they wanted it for a pet shelter, but we were also probably reaching a point where we could have removed some of the walls on the inside and increased the opportunity to have a business or to do something. And over all of these years, we maintained it. We put windows in it. We made repairs on it. I personally made repairs that I donated my own time for. We kept it up to the best shape we could keep it in until it got to where they wanted it for a pet shelter. Well, when they come for the pet shelter, I guess they took it away and we didn't have a choice about it. So then, when Dan says we turned it over. So At that point, they cut holes in the wall to let the kennels for the dogs, they remodeled inside. They had to bring in a big air conditioning unit. They did a lot to that. And there was never no upkeep on that building. And, you know, to this day, we didn't have the keys for it. And things went to heck in the building. There's some mold in the building, a lot of problems with the building. And that's kind of at the state we're at now. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is we're in the process of getting some snow removal equipment through the state. And that could be $500,000 to $550,000. And the bid's there, the state's working on it, and we need that equipment to keep going in that. Where Marshfield operates on a 5-year plan, the state operates on a 10-year plan. And in that 10-year plan, we're listed down on the bottom for a snow removal shed. And we need something in the long future to cover our equipment, put stuff in, because as everything, we're growing and things are expanding and we're getting more and we got to do a better job and we need more. Now, one of the things I came up with is this. If you look at that building out there, there is a parking lot. There is a road running into the parking lot. That building has access to the ramp, and then you can taxi out and go anywhere from there. And my suggestion, and I don't have full approval from the committee yet, but my suggestion was,
And John, I apologize, your 5 minutes are up, but I'm going to give you 3 more, so you have 3 more minutes, so you can continue for 3 more minutes, okay?
okay, my suggestion was that if they remove the building, that we don't take down we remove the power, we remove the gas line, and we unhook the sewer and the water, but we leave it at that point. We don't take down the power line, we don't remove the slab, and we don't totally dig up the sewer and the water. And that's probably got a rough footprint of 30 by 80 feet, and that would be an excellent spot for our snow shed. And instead of the city spending all that money to do that, once they remove that, to put it on hold at least for part of next year, so we could go back to the state and see if that's something that they would help us out with, and then they might give us a grant to continue and build a shed there, and it faces the south, and when the equipment's in there, they could drive right out, and they're on the runways to plow and the grass mowing and everything, they're right there. So I thought, to me, that would make common sense to take advantage of that footprint, and that's a good solid slab with no groundwork, and a lot of things are done already, and to build on top of that base. But I just wanted to run that by the council people, look at what they think about it for the following year coming up, and if that's something we should put a request into the state for, or see where we're at with that. But I just wanted to run that by you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Elizabeth Giebert?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Giebert. I am, 1122 South Buren Drive, Wisconsin Rapids. I am here this evening just to introduce myself to the council. I am running for the Wood County Circuit Court Judge Branch 3 that is on April 7th of next year. Just a little bit about myself. I am a career prosecutor. I have been working as a district attorney for over 16 years. In that time, I have handled a lot of sensitive crimes cases, sexual assaults, homicides, as well as more minor offenses. And as a prosecutor, I have spent a lot of time exercising my discretion to determine what should be charged and what kind of outcome the public would be seeking, what kind of outcome the public would want to see in a given case. I believe that this experience has put me into a very good position to become a judge, because a judge does the exact same thing on a daily basis, not as far as charging is concerned, but in deciding what kind of a penalty, what kind of an outcome there should be for any given sort of a case. So I am I have lived in Wood County for over 20 years. There was a time when I was the elected district attorney of Langlade County for about 6 years, but even during that time, my husband lived in Wisconsin Rapids in our home here. And so I got to spend 6 years missing my husband every single day. But I moved back to Wood County in 2022. I have lived here since then, and I really look forward to bringing my experience to the people of Wood County. So if you are interested in ever talking to me, I'm very happy to speak to people, and you'll see me out and about. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you this evening.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Are there any other citizen comments? Any other citizen comments? Seeing none, move on to item F, approval of minutes, November 11th, 2025, regular meeting. Motion by Alderman Dellis, second by Alderman Giles. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote. That motion passes. Thank you. Item G, staff updates.
I'm not aware of any this evening.
Item H, mayor's comments. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. May you have a great day. Eat lots of turkey and watch some football and enjoy your families. Item I, council comments. Item J, city administrator's update.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 items tonight. The first one is just to preview the rather busy schedule we have on the last meeting of the year here. I think those of you who've been around for a while are used to how we have multiple meetings at night because we won't be meeting again until 2026. Here's what the schedule looks like right now. I'll send this to you in email as well, but we're planning on the Judiciary and License meeting at 4:45, Finance, Budget, and Personnel at 5 o'clock, Board of Public Works at 5:45, the Plan Commission at 6:30, and the Council at 7:30. And the reason for having Plan Commission before Council, and I apologize if that looks kind of awkward to members of this body, but there are some items on the Plan Commission agenda that, if they are approved by the Plan Commission, we'd like Council to give final approval to, so they can get moving prior to 3 weeks later when the next, actually 4 weeks later when the next regular Council meeting would be. So again, I'll email that schedule out for you as we get closer, probably send it out to you tomorrow to prep you for your calendars. 2 other things, I want to echo what Denise said earlier. I'm going to send out tomorrow, I was planning on it anyway, the invite to the Synergy event on December 8th over in Stevens Point. Great opportunity, and you'll see that it's worth your time. It's free. You have to register, but if you're interested, please let me know that. If it appears that there might be multiple of you, maybe we will end up probably anyway putting out a possible quorum notice, but it'd be good to have some members of this body be part of that presentation and discussion. And then finally, on the consent agenda tonight, there's the minutes of the airport committee meeting from October 23rd. Just to let you know, there was an item on there, an airport lease for the Beale farming, the acres there. That is being taken off. That will be put on the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee agenda next Tuesday, Tuesday, December 2nd, as a special item. If it passes there, it will come back to this body in consent agenda on December 9th. And I would ask that that be noted as well as you make the approval. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Item K, reports from commissions, boards, and committees. Seeing none, move on to consent agenda, meeting minutes, reports. We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman Varsho. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote. That motion passes. Thank you. And we can skip over item M because there's no action on removed items. Item N, request to approve resolution number 2025-35, determining and levying the amount to be raised by taxation for city purposes for fiscal year 2026 and approving the 2026 budget presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, earlier in this meeting, not that long ago, actually about 15 minutes ago, we had a public hearing for the proposed 2026 budget and tax levy. There were no comments from the public. And this is your opportunity to decide if you want to make any last minute changes. Otherwise, the resolution 2025-35 is in your packet that would approve the 2026 budget and tax levy. I also want to call your attention to a couple things. There was an item in the packet, one of the attachments, that showed some minor adjustments made since the 4th budget meeting on October 27th. Most of them are things you might expect. A lot of them are tax increment numbers for the TIF districts, which we didn't know at the time. Some of them are just cleaning things up. The one I do want to note, and again, this comes back to the item on the airport, the former terminal building. You'll see $21,300 moved into contingency, which is our recommendation for that project to occur in 2026, early in the year, the removing of that building. I also want to talk about the tax rate. The tax rate in 2020, last year, I'll just say for 24 taxes imposed in 2025, was 8.0556 per thousand of assessed value. This year, what's in front of you would take it to $8.37 roughly per $1,000 in value. That's an increase of 3.93%. That might be one of the things that get your attention. It might potentially get the attention of taxpayers. But I want to walk through a little bit how that came about. First of all, one of the things we try to do is to try to levy, when possible, the maximum amount, because it's a starting point for what we're allowed to levy in future years. But beyond that, a few things made this a particularly difficult year. One is that the city's assessed value increased by only 0.42%, which means that there really wasn't much more assessed value to spread the tax levy across. But also, there are a couple other things that came to mind as what happened. Number one, we approved a referendum. And that referendum has a cost of about $250,000 on the tax levy. The other item is the first year of our payment as part of that settlement with the clinic, and that is roughly $350,000. So those two together make up $600,000 of the roughly $750,000 increase in the tax levy last year. In other words, 80% of the increase in the tax levy is because of those two items, the referendum and the payment that we anticipated that had to be made on that agreement. So ultimately, with that in mind, I would still say that unless there's any changes the council has at the last moment, staff would recommend approval of Resolution 2025-35, setting the 2026 budget and tax levy.
We have a motion by Alderman Varsho, second by Alderman Giles. Any questions, comments from the council? Seeing none, right under the mug. There he goes. Alderman O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question on that settlement with the clinic. Wasn't that additional monies that we got at the end related to that?
Yeah, right. But the levy still includes it, and it will be recouping those monies. Is the way that works, correct? My understanding.
So there actually won't be an impact because of that.
We'll be made whole.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And that will benefit us in 2020 as we go into the 2027 budget.
Any other questions, comments? We'll go a little slower this time. Please vote. That motion passes. Thank you. Item O, request to appoint Jennifer Solinsky as the City of Marshfield's alternate representative to the Central Wisconsin Economic Development Fund, Incorporated, CWED Board of Directors, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, that was a great question, Mike. Thanks for raising it so we could clarify that point. People know how it plays out in the end. The city is a member of the Central Wisconsin Economic Development Fund, and we're in a 10-county area that has many municipalities as part of that body. I've served on that board for a number of years. What they do, and I think we've had a presentation here before from Kristen Fish-Peterson in the last 12 to 18 months, their main purposes are to provide low-interest loans, to encourage business development. They promote the creation and retention and expansion of businesses, and they leverage private investment for economic development. So as a member of that CWED, we have one voting representative on the board of directors. That's been me now for 3 years, since Josh Miller resigned from the city back in 2022. However, we can also have an alternate, and that person can serve on the meetings which are held remotely as a representative if I'm not available. I miss probably 2 to 3 meetings a year, typically, for different reasons. So we'd like to have somebody in that position. And as I mentioned, a lot of the discussions involve making new loans, refinancing existing loans, talking about gap financing, changes to the conditions and terms of the loans being made. So I believe that Jennifer Solinsky, our finance director, who has outstanding financial skills and experience, is a great candidate to be that alternate. So with that in mind, staff recommends council appointment of Jennifer Solinsky to serve as the alternate CWED board member going forward.
We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman Dellis. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote. That motion passes. Thank you. Congratulations, Jennifer. Update on the projected cost of renovating the Wildwood Plaza building for relocation of the police department. Request from council members Spiros and O'Reilly, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, a couple of weeks ago, at the request of council member Spiros, I made a brief presentation kind of following up on memo that had been written by Jody Gerink, our police chief, kind of giving an update on where things stand with the police renovation of the Wildwood Plaza building. One of the things that Rebecca had requested was a financial update, and specifically how much money had been spent to that point. And I did report, and it was in Jody's memo, that we've spent $136,000 to date on that project in terms of design and engineering fees with our consultant, BKV. So anyway, but subsequently, Councilmember Spiros did ask for more information. She had a conversation with the police chief where he had at one point said to her that the initial preliminary estimate was around $12 million, which is more than the $10 million that the city had budgeted for this project. Actually, to go back, the city's budget was $10.8 million, with $800,000 being for the design engineering and $10 million for the construction. So anyway, that caught her attention, and she asked for another update today. Councilmember O'Reilly agreed that that would be a good thing, so that's how it got on the agenda this evening. I want to start out before I make some comments by saying that our consultant has been made aware of very clearly and reminded that $10 million construction cost is the outer limit for what council is willing to pay for this project. So it's not for lack of knowledge of that we're talking about a number that may be higher than the preliminary estimate. But we did have a good meeting today. Some of us gathered in council in the conference room and talked about where we're at and where we need to go with this, getting ready for tonight. And not that we haven't been working on it all the time. James Levin, our new planner, has been working on it. Josh Moritz, the police chief, Jody Gerink, Justin Casperson, our park and recreation director, and others have been involved in this project along the way, along with others. But here's the update I have for you tonight. First of all, where we're at, we're working with, first of all, the third-party cost estimates that we have at the end of the schematic design phase, which is where we're winding down to, are between $10.8 million and $13.5 million. So they are slightly above the estimate. And these kind of cost estimates are usually, I'm told, within 20 to 30% accuracy. What we're really trying to get as we go forward is a guaranteed maximum price out of this process. So we're looking at getting a construction manager, somebody to be working on the city's behalf, get them on board as soon as we can so that they can work with the plans before it gets to construction, find ways to do value engineering to save money, things that can be trimmed, cut, done differently. And you'll be seeing a request from us in the next few weeks to try and get an RFP for that very service to get that process underway and get somebody on our behalf serving as our construction manager. This is a normal thing to do. It's the right time to do that. And we hope that this will find some savings for us as we go along the way. And then even into get the process of getting bids ultimately for the project. We do expect the market for construction procurement to be a little bit less stable in 2026. There may be volatile labor costs, supply chains uncertainties. So we definitely want that person or that firm, if you will, working on our behalf to try and trim costs to stay within budget. But I want to leave you with a couple thoughts. One is that we will have continuous checkpoints for you here when there's something to report. We don't want to come every 2 weeks just to talk it, to be heard. But as we have key checkpoints along the way, we're going to come to you, update you, get your feedback and input as necessary. We want you to know that you're not going to wake up one day and we're going to say, well, sorry guys, it came in at 14 million. You're going to sign on. That day is not going to happen. You're going to be involved and you're going to be educated as to what's going on, and you get a chance to express concerns along the way. But we will be working very hard to achieve that guaranteed maximum price. The other thing I would note is that the effort to do this has been ongoing. It didn't just come up today at our meeting. It didn't come up this last week. We've known that this was going on. We've not been totally surprised that the initial preliminary estimate was higher than $10 million. That's not uncommon in that phase of design, but we're committed to working hard to bring it to within where this body would like to see it. And with that in mind, I would take any questions. Otherwise, we'll keep you posted and we'll schedule another update when there's something of significance to report.
Alderman Werman?
Thank you. I think construction manager at this point is a really good idea. I would say what we need to be doing instead of worrying too much about cost is we need to start planning for what our minimum viable product is. So what is the base operational portion of the building? There was some bells and whistles or extras in there that we could probably do without. I know Jody and I kind of talked about this early in the project, and I would say that's what we should be doing right now, is figuring out what that's going to be. So if the bid does come in high, we say it's going to be 13 million. Where can we cut that 3 million to get down and still operate effectively? Because in the next however many years, we can be doing fundraising, we can be doing sponsorships, looking for grants to help build out those extra portions, but we still need to know what the base of the building is that they need to operate. And I think that's the only concern I have right now is we're still looking at it as a holistic building, but there are parts that we could cut out and we need to start looking at that before it gets too far down the pipeline, and then we can't, dial that back.
That is a really great point. And your point about grants is well taken too. We were applying for a grant, I forget the name of it, hopefully to get some money for this, maybe a significant amount of money, and hold to that borrowing parameter that we have. And everything you said about a construction manager, I fully agree with. Thank you.
Alderman O'Reilly?
Thank you. Yes, I would agree with Alderman. Excuse me. This is going around, I guess. Yeah, I have a lot of the same concerns. I watch these government projects that are scheduled to be a certain dollar amount, and they always escalate. And I think it was very clear when this thing was approved that 10 million was the limit. So if in the event we are hiring a project manager, is that coming out of this budget? How is that?
Yeah, you'll have to, unless we have another funding source, it would come out of this budget.
So we'd have to keep in mind that there has to be a return on investment with this person.
It's entirely with the hope that that person is going to save us a lot more than we're paying. Good point.
So has the design, I guess, from my perspective, it's, maybe I shouldn't be frustrated by it, but I am. I haven't seen or heard anything about this project. Is the footprint still the same? Has anything changed? Have we looked at removing things? I mean, I think from an elected official standpoint, you sit back and go, what is going on with this? So I think the continued conversation about this is going to be very important and help people understand the process and what kind of things we may have to give up in order to hit that number. I think we did some of the geotechnical testing and potentially even some hazardous materials testing. I haven't heard anything about those. Do we know outcomes? Any of that kind of stuff would be really beneficial for this body to hear some of the specifics on things that we're encountering as we go through this. I do not want to end up in another situation like we did with that walking path. And it can't happen. It's ridiculous. So I would just key in, please keep the communication open, keep this body informed, and go from there.
I totally agree. We did lose a little bit of time earlier in the process. I think at this point now they're just winding down, I think, the schematic design work on that. And going back to what Derek was saying, I mean, I think that those are the very things that you identified, something that you talked to the chief about, that are being looked at as whether or not they can be trimmed from the project. But I agree with what you're saying. You want to know, I mean, ultimately, if we come up with a project that's $10 million and you look at it and you say, some really important things have been cut out, you're probably not going to be happy with it either. You're going to wonder if it's going to fulfill the full function that you expected. Not that you're going to want to spend more, but you're going to question. And the other thing that's happened too, if I can be honest, I mean, we started this process in 2023. Even from 2023 to 2025, costs have gone up, like they have in the general world due to inflation. So it's a work in progress to meet that firm guideline. I was going to say guideline. It's more than a guideline that you gave us, but we're working on it. We'll get it done.
Alderman Fire?
I'd like to make a comment about building and redoing a building, whatever you want to do. When I was on the county board, we had a projected number of $58 million. Guess what happened when the bids came out? It was $98 million. So, and that was the same situation we have here. The everything was just in a flux. Everything went up, and if it goes up, we're going to be in trouble. So you got to brace yourself. It may be more than 10 million, whether you want it or not. Another thing is, being on the council for this long, we have to stop micromanaging everything and let the people that are going to do it get to a point and then tell us. We micromanage, and we get nowhere and get nothing done.
Alderman Tompkins?
Thank you. I'm just wondering if we have established firm protocols for if we have a construction manager and our bidding process. A couple of years ago, we had an issue with bidding and things like that, and a project got pulled. So do we have a set protocol for how that would work with the construction?
We started on that road today. We had a good meeting. The city attorney was there. I think we talked through a lot of how that would be navigated. And so I don't know that we dotted every I and crossed every T, but we're going in that direction. We understand the concern. And I want to go back, if I can, for a second to what Councilmember Fire was saying. That's a good point about what happened with the jail project, and it's easy to see it happening, here potentially. I guess I'd like to confirm that we're talking about the limit being $10 million of borrowing for this project, correct? In other words, if we have some costs, we can't quite get to $10 million, but we have some grant funds coming into the picture. I'm hopeful that $10 million in actual city funding is what you're committed to. Is that the understanding?
Mhm. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, item Q, suggested items for future agendas. Alderman Werman.
Thank you. I had two things tonight. One, there was a good report on Vandehey Waters in the consent agenda tonight. I was hoping we could get a further detailed presentation of that. Just because there was a few things in here that we should probably go over, and it sounds like Parks is already looking into it with finance, so a couple things I'd like to review. We could definitely do that after the first of the year. I don't think we need to try to cram it into the next month. And then the other one would be, I would love to see, I know last year we had a lot of discussion about the fairgrounds and the projects going on, specifically electrical, but then what they were looking at, I know they were going to look at replacing the grandstand roof and I think another project. I would just love to hear more about what they're looking to do in the next year. And again, could wait till after the first of the year. It's nothing that they're going to be doing in the next month, but just to see what they're going to be doing.
Okay.
Alderman O'Reilly.
Thank you. I had requested an agenda item for finance, budget, and personnel on a policy for the money going back into general fund from project costs and stuff. And I know we talked about a month at that point. It's been about a month and we've had a couple of them canceled. Is there a way we can just move that directly to the council rather than presenting it at finance, budget, and personnel and dragging it out further?
Yeah.
When it comes through.
If that's the body's acceptable to that, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm just going to throw one in real quick if I can, I guess. And that is that we have the strategic planning meetings now set for the 17th and 31st of January. You can expect to see an agenda item coming up soon from me with respect to helping the facilitator help us get ready for that. I'm not sure what that'll look like, but just so that we can be in sync as to what he's expecting and how we can make the best use of our time.
Seeing no other items to future agendas, item R, adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin Statute Chapter 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Possible new tourism entity agreement with Visit Marshfield. We have a motion by Alderman Dellis, second by Alderman Tompkins. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote to go into closed session. We are in closed session. If nobody has on matters discussed in closed session if appropriate. We have a motion by Alderman Dallas, and Alderman Dallas, your motion is?
Or to approve the contract with Visit Marshfield.
And Alderman Cran, you second?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote. That motion passes. Item U. Motion by Alderman Varsho, second by Alderman Cran. Please vote to adjourn the meeting. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.